Hello and welcome to the show. If you're a business owner or the CEO of your household, then you know how difficult it is sometimes to hire out work that you could do yourself. You could learn to do yourself. But is that the best use of your time, your resources, and your skill sets? My guest today is Amanda Rush. She's the owner of Virtual Assistant Studio and full-time VA. She not only teaches people how to become a virtual assistant, but she owns her own VA service. She and her team have a plethora of skills. Some of them she'll share with us today. Welcome to the show, Amanda. Glad to have you
Thank you so
here.
much for having me.
We've been working together the last couple of hours, and I said, okay, well, we logged out. We came back in after a little break, and I said, well, now I'm in my comfort zone at least. This I know how to do.
That makes one of us, but that's okay.
The workflow stuff we were doing earlier is not my wheelhouse. So thank you for your help today, but also I'm glad you're here on the show.
Oh, well, thank you. So am I. I'm so excited. It's like chatting with a friend, you know?
Yes, for sure. Well, let's talk then. I want people to understand, first of all, how you came to this work, what people watching, if they had an interest in being a virtual assistant, how they'd go about that. And then also then what kind of work you do for clients that need your help with back end stuff and productions and things like that. So let's start from the beginning. Let's talk about what your background was in before you decided to work in the virtual assistant space.
Okay, so I came from retail management in the fashion industry. So fast paced, a lot of travel. I have been working in that industry since I was 16 years old, which is crazy. So I knew a lot about it. But when I left, my role was district trainer. So I would actually go up and down the East Coast and bebop from store to store, training their store managers on how to run their business or training their team on different facets of the business. So I think a lot of those skills are very transferable to what I do today. But part of the reason how I fell into the virtual assistant world, I sometimes joke that I didn't know what a virtual assistant was until I became one. Like literally had that name was not even in my vocabulary at the time.
And did you know that's what you were doing? Like would you have thought your title, I'm a virtual assistant?
No.
You were just virtually assisting.
I was virtually assisting. And then it was so funny because one day I was stumbled across that term on the internet and I read it and I was like, well, that sounds like what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And then as of course, you get into the industry, you realize like, oh, I am in this niche. That is a really great, I guess, label of what it is that we do and how we help people.
And so for people who don't know what a virtual assistant is, what do you do and how do you help people?
Such a good question. That's actually probably my number one asked question. Even my family is like, so what exactly do you do? And in really simple terms, a virtual assistant is a lot like what it sounds.
Right.
You're supporting a business owner remotely. So that means like from their computer, as long as you've got computer and Wi-Fi, you're good to go. But the actual tasks really range. So I like to think of virtual assisting almost as an umbrella, similar to how there's a doctor, but then under doctor, there's 1,000 different specialties. That's kind of the sense with virtual assistants. You could be a virtual assistant for online business owners like yourself, or podcasters, or course creators, or brick and mortar stores. We actually just trained a virtual assistant and she's going to support construction companies. So it really ranges, but the type of work is pretty much similar at its core in the sense of you're doing a lot of back end stuff on the computer. It might be admin, it might be creative. It's really just going to depend on your specialty and your skill set.
It transferred to what you were doing. And then how did you decide, okay, this is what I'm already doing. I've decided I'll teach people how to do it. And was that an automatic, or how long were you a virtual assistant before you decided this is something you could teach? I think sometimes we don't realize that we have a skill set that's teachable in a form that people can actually log in and learn and then take it into their own life how they see fit.
Yeah. Well, when I started out, I was doing very general stuff. I'm sure, as probably most virtual assistants start out, when somebody's like, I'm going to give you money for something you enjoy doing, you're like, yes, you'll say yes to anything, right? You're like, that sounds amazing. And I very quickly realized that out of those 100 things, I'm really actually just good at a handful of them,
Okay.
/ I also enjoy them. So that's when I kind of focused in on.
So you want it to be something that you enjoy so that, I mean, there's, like you said, there can be many hats under that umbrella. but like podcast editing is your jam, right? So you want it, you enjoy that. And so that's what you focus on, as opposed to your friend or client who's now in the construction world, must have had some construction background, perhaps.
Exactly. And so I think that's kind of the beauty of it, is you get to decide, right? Like
Mhm.
you get to pick, this is what I'm good at and this is what I enjoy doing. Therefore, this is the type of person that I'm going to serve. And this aligns with the skills that I have too. So it's a really nice synergy. But to answer your question, from the transition of when I started to when I started supporting others in this space, it was probably about 6 to 9 months. I very quickly niched down and was like, okay, no going serving. And at the time, I had my little ones home with me. They were much smaller than they are now. And so I was really doing like what they call the nap time hustle, where you're working on in the hours that they're
Oh
basically
yeah,
asleep.
it's the creating illusion that you don't work. That's
Yeah,
what I
I
tried to do
know.
in the beginning,
I'm like,
which is
no,
nothing
there's
wrong with working. It's just trying to balance your time, and you work when they sleep, when you're supposed to sleep when
exactly.
they sleep, but whatever.
Yeah. So I was doing that. And a lot of times during the day, I would share that on a social media platform like Instagram. And I would have other moms reach out to me and be like, this is really cool. Like, you make money for this. What are you doing? Like, I don't quite understand this. Like, I would love to learn about it. And there's only so much that you can share on a voice text on
Sure.
Instagram, because it cuts you off at like 60 seconds and I'm
Right.
very long-winded. And so I knew, being a virtual assistant really changed my life as a mom, how I showed up as a wife, and even just as a friend. And my overall happiness was just so much higher. And I was so much less stressed out than when I was working my corporate job. Not that there was anything wrong with my corporate job, it's just my actual
It was
life
a new
looked
season
different.
for you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, let's take a
And
break. When we
so,
come back, I want to further this discussion. I want to talk about that, and also the impact COVID had on your pivot, because that was a big deal. And that's, I mean, a lot of people took a big pivot. I
yeah,
feel like I'm still pivoting sometimes. So
totally.
let's take a break. We're talking with Amanda Rush, and we will get more details about virtual assisting for any of you who are watching who are interested in becoming one. We'll be back in just a moment. We're back talking with Amanda Rush. We're talking about your experience as a virtual assistant and how it led you to make a pivot into teaching other people, because people are reaching out to you, and you probably figured there's an organized way of going about sharing this information, and it created another income stream for you.
Yeah, it's a win-win for everybody,
Right.
truly. But the reason I was called to do this is because I myself am a mom, and I realized that sometimes it's difficult when you're a mom and you're trying to balance working full time and being a mom full time. And a lot of times it feels like you have to make a choice. You have to either have an amazing career and never see your kids, or be a stay-at-home mom and leave that career behind. And there doesn't really feel to be a middle ground. And for me, this was the middle ground. I could do what I loved, still make a full-time income, support our family, but also be home with my kids. And that's why I built the program. And the program is just my exact blueprint of how I got from where I was in my corporate job to where I was as a virtual assistant. It's very simple. There's no fluff. There's no go post on social
Right.
media or build a website or anything like that. And that's truly why I built the program, because I was like, if I could teach even one other person how to do this, then it will be worth my time.
Mm-hmm. And so then you have to take a dive into course creator world, which is a whole other business. And I did the same thing. That's how I built my online course, Empathetic Healthcare Practices. And some of them, you can go through training, you can hire coaches to train you how to do that. You can take your own course to learn how to build a course. How did you approach that for anyone watching who has a teachable skill set that they would like to share with others?
I think my best advice is not to overcomplicate it.
Mhm.
You have all the answers inside your brain. You don't need to take a course or a coach or a program or anything like that. You really don't. And I've taken a lot of programs, so I'm saying that with confidence. My advice would be jot everything down on a piece of paper, organize it in a way that doesn't seem overwhelming, and then just put pen to paper, or in this case, go to your laptop, type some things in on Canvas slides, record it on Loom, and you have a course that you can
Well,
sell.
what's funny is you're saying Canvas slides and Loom. So I didn't know what Loom was when I met you, but now I do. And Loom, so Canva is a very user-friendly graphic design support kind of um, application that you can use. I use it for everything I do, everything I do. And I used to create stuff from scratch in Microsoft Pages. I didn't even have an Illustrator skill or anything like that. So Canva is really a game changer. And I'm not a professional graphic designer, but I can look like one in Canva.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I
it
am a
has
professional
multiple
graphic
templates.
designer, but what I mean is I wasn't trained through, you know, through any of the other ways that you can learn how to do that. So then Loom is a way for you to record things and then put them out into the world. And it's not as complicated as some of the software that I use to do my course, but it is a way to get it done and not let it slow down your process if you don't have access or knowledge to use Adobe Premiere or some of these bigger editing softwares.
Yeah. And the best part is they both have free subscriptions. So you could sign up for Canva and it's free. And Loom has a free subscription if the video is under 5 minutes. So if you chop your modules into really short bite-sized pieces, you can make your whole course for free.
Yeah. Well, so then you decided to become a virtual assistant who teaches people how to become a virtual assistant. What can people expect if they were to want to take your course or learn as they go? I think sometimes there's ways we can learn stuff on our own, and then there are times when it's so worth paying somebody who's already walked through it and done it successfully. And I think that in some of the courses, like a course like what you're describing, it's worth that, whatever the cost is, if the end result is that you become whatever it is they're teaching you to become. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's really up to the person who's taking the course. Like you can take it and really work through it quickly and understand it and apply it to your life, or you can sign up for it, pay for it every month or whatever the one-time price is and not use it at all.
Oh,
It's
yeah. And I've
about
been guilty
follow
of that,
through.
right?
Yeah, I've done that a few times. But so what
Totally.
will people expect when if from your course in terms of what they can learn and go and take that into their career?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, in our course, we're really a big believer in community and support. So we're walking you through the blueprint. And the great thing is that blueprint is customizable for each of our students. And we teach them how to make this work for them. So we let them know, like, this is not a one size fits all. Your timeline and the way that you execute being a virtual assistant is not going to look like your best friend down the street. And that's okay. That's why it's really cool. And then we couple that, we actually take people that have graduated from the course and they become VA coaches within the program and they lead other moms through the program. So you can ask a VA who is literally working with clients, has gone before you, has done the same course, has done the work, and be like, hey, what did you do in this situation? Or what do you think about this? Or I'm stumped here, or I can't make it past module 3 because my kids are screaming like I'm
Right.
losing it. Just having like that sense of community, I think, is really helpful in keeping you moving too. I think what you said is a perfect example. If you are willing to do the modules and put in the work, the chances are very high that you're going to see a result at the end. Typically, it's just the people who sign up and probably never log in that aren't going to see the results.
Right. You have to do the work, as in anything, as in
Mhm.
anything. So then when people come in and take your course, I want to save some of it for our last segment, but I do want to just touch upon it as we get finish up this one. When people come in and take your course, how long, if someone was really diligent and, signed in every day and blocked out time for themselves, even if they were working a full-time job, how long would you expect for them to finish the course?
I would
Really
expect
have an
them.
understanding of the content.
Yeah, I like to give people 30 days. So that's kind of our stretched out timeline. I mean, I've seen people do it in like 2 weeks and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm impressed. I can't even execute that fast. But I think 30 days gives you enough time to digest and also implement. And our like guarantee is that you'll be certified by the end of it. So you'll have an actual certification that says like, I'm a certified virtual assistant through a full-time VA. And within that timeline is that 30-day timeline.
Okay. Well, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll just finish up and explain then what some of the job placement looks like. You don't actually place people, but what that would look like and how they'd go about it. And then also the services that you offer, because not only did you train people how to be VAs, but you run a team of VAs who I have recently hired to do back end stuff that I can't even, it would take me so long to learn. It would take me so long to learn. So let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about that. We are back talking with Amanda Rush. Amanda, you're the owner of Virtual Assistant Studio and Full-Time VA. So you teach people how to become a VA, and then sometimes you hire them to work within your team as a VA. So let's talk about what your services offer, because for someone who's interested, say, in starting a podcast or creating their own online course, whatever it is, opening a business, like you said, that is, downtown with, people coming in and out, that's not an online business. What do you feel like the skill set that you offer helps really get us from one point to the other? Because I know there are things that I haven't accomplished because the back end is stuff I don't know, nor do I want to learn.
Yes.
So,
And that is a handful of our clients. And then a handful of our clients are so busy that even if they know how to do these things, they can't get to them because they're at the bottom of the to-do list and there's about 100 other things that need to happen beforehand. So what we really specialize in is creating content that converts. So that might look like what we were doing for you earlier today, which was a beautifully built out email sequence where we're really thinking through the client journey and what sort of information do they need to be fed so that they can convert at the end of that sequence. It might look like launching a podcast so that you can get more eyeballs on your content. It might look like a really great content repurposing strategy where we're taking, let's say, a YouTube video, chopping it up into reels, TikToks, YouTube shorts, and sprinkling it across the internet. It could look like a long form SEO blog post. So it's going to be customized based on the type of business that you have and really what your goals are. But our purpose is to be able to help support you on the back end of that content creation so that you can continue to do the things that only you can do as a business owner.
yeah, and I think it's customizable too, because as a writer, I want to write my own emails, but I don't want to think about which emails I need to write. So you go through a strategy and say, okay, what does a welcome email look like? What kind of, when do you want to start talking about the services you're offering without sounding like you're pushing sales? Or what is that organic flow? It's a workflow, right? It's an email flow. What does that look like? And then, okay, now I know which ones I need to write and I'll write them. And then you will schedule them and take care of all the back end things. Same with, any of the other things. Like a lot of people host podcasts today. You'll take that content from a podcast episode and maybe cut it up and make clips that are for promotional reels, or even just stories and Instagram. Just these things, even some of the language you just used is not language I'm familiar with, but there's some things I just don't need to learn. There's some things we don't need to learn. It holds us up from starting a business. Have you faced that as well?
Oh, 100%. And I think too, it's different for everybody. Like we have people that would rather do the portion that I did today. And then they're like, I can't do the writing. I need you to handle the writing. And I'm like, okay, great. We have a copywriter for that. And so I like what you said in the terms of it's flexible, because our goal is really to meet the business owner where they are and look at the needs of the business and fill in the gaps wherever we're needed. So your blueprint may look a little bit different than somebody else's blueprint, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. One thing that we started to touch upon is that COVID had a big impact on your pivot. So in what way? What were you doing before? And then how did COVID really change? You said almost 100% the direction you were going.
So I was working my corporate job, climbing the ladder, and I always knew that I wanted to be doing something else. And I had all these skills, and I just couldn't quite figure out how to package them in a way to do something differently, because I didn't really know what the options were, if I'm being honest. I knew I wanted to work from home. I knew I wanted to work remote, and I wanted to have more freedom and flexibility. But when I would type into Google remote jobs or work from home, some very sketchy things popped up. And I knew as a smart person, like, I'm probably not going to leave a salary and a 401k with benefits to go pursue one of these very sketchy things. And it wasn't until COVID that I was late night searching in a Facebook group, and I came across all these business owners that were like, I need help with writing these emails. I need help with these social media graphics. I need help with launching a podcast. And I was like, oh, well, I know how to do those things. And that's when I joke about how I fell into it. That is literally how I fell into it. And so before I knew it, it was 4, maybe 5 weeks later, I had so many clients that I had replaced my full-time income. And I very quickly realized, you know what? If I hired somebody to help me with this workload, we could serve more people. And so that's what I did. And I started with one part-time, my own virtual assistant. She was like 5 hours a week. It's like, if you could just handle like this little bit of stuff, that would be amazing. And then I was like, wait, this is so great. She's so good. I can give her more. Now she still works for me full time to this day, like 3 years later into the business. And we have almost 20 employees that work alongside with us, and they're all moms. And I think that's what's cool is like, yes, we're able to train people who are like, I want to go out and do this on my own. But for the people that are like, I just want to do this work and do it well, we have the option to be able to hire them within the agency too. So it's really cool.
Well, that is really cool because sometimes someone will sign up for something and then maybe the hardest part for them is to go find the work, to go find the
Oh,
work.
yeah.
And maybe some people start with you before, and then they get a little more confident to go out on their own. And I know that you've said that you support that as well. I mean, you want
Oh,
people to
absolutely.
grow to whatever their potential is, whatever they're hoping to do.
Yeah. And that's part of why in the community we decided to do, we call them job drafts, where basically every single day we have a lot of people that'll come to us that's like, I'm looking for this. And we do not offer that as an agency because we are not Nutella. We can't be everything to everybody.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times we'll pass those along to the full-time BA students. And then we have a lot of things that we just see, or people that might reach out and be like, hey, can you put this in your
Right.
community? Because they know we train virtual assistants. And so we're kind of helping that process along so that you don't feel like, oh, you just have to go out into the world and good luck finding clients and like, bye, have fun sort of
Right.
situation.
Yes, for sure. So how do people find you? How do they reach out to you?
Oh, great question. So they can head on over to our website. It's thevirtualassistantstudio.com. And if you want to come hang out with me on Instagram, it's just my name, which is at Amanda Rush Holmes.
And then, so if someone wanted to get started today, this is, this airs next week. So we're in, gosh, are we already in, we're in we will be in late March. So by the end of April, by May, they could be trained to be a virtual assistant and again, not leave their job necessarily right away, but starting to take on clients or taking on, do you hire part-time people too, or only full-time?
Oh, absolutely. We definitely have a lot of part-time people, especially if you're a mom and you've got little ones. You may not have 40 hours a week to
Sure.
dedicate to work. You may only have 10 hours, and that's okay. So a lot of our people, I encourage them to start out part-time and get their feet wet. And then if you want to grow and build up your client base, do that, or grow within the agency, that's great too. But then that way you're not required to.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I've learned so much from you already. Some of the things I've learned that I'm going to hold on for myself and utilize, and other things I've learned for the moment and I can let it go because now I have someone who can help me navigate that and take care of it. So it's valuable to me as a business owner, and it's not easy for me to hire people to do things I know I can do, but it becomes necessary if you want to scale and make some big moving, shaking changes in your business and your life, right? Thank you so much, Amanda. I
Thank
appreciate
you for
you.
having me.
Take care.